Okay. Right. Well, welcome everyone. This is our third Lunch and Learn series, and it's March 18th, 2025. Um, we have one more opportunity next Tuesday as our final Lunch and Learn on regional aggregation methods for aggregating food and local foods. So please, if you haven't already, please consider registering for that one. And the link is at the bottom, and we'll put it in the chat as well. I'm Scott Roser. I'm a homesteader in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and I'm also part of the West Central Minnesota Food Policy Council. The Food Council is a new organization here, and it includes four counties: Becker, Clay, Otter Tail, and Wilkin. And it started out of a regional food plan that was done in our area, and we kind of based on the findings from that, we created this food council. And the hope is that we will continue to find creative ways of supporting sustainable farming and agriculture just in our local area, and increase production and consumption in all levels of the local food system. The structure of our council is that we meet as a large group every month, but we have three subcommittees, one that focuses on food security, one that is on urban agriculture, and one on marketing local foods. The urban agriculture committee is the one that planned this webinar series. The public is always welcome to attend any of our food council meetings or subcommittee meetings, and you can find more information about how to do that on our website, Minnesota Food Council, mnfoodcouncil.org. So, as I mentioned, the Urban Ag Committee is putting this on, and our goals are to target all areas of the production system. So, like so many people like myself, you kind of started at the homestead level, and my goals are moving on up to maybe part-time farming and making some money off of my homestead. And then we're going all the way up to people that are doing this for a living as a full-time work or larger scale operations. And we want to support all those levels: home gardeners and homesteaders, people that are part-time farming, and as well as full-time agriculture farmers. I'm the chair of our committee, and my email's there at the bottom. You can contact me about any questions you have, or if you want to maybe participate in any of the work we're doing at sroser. Oh, that's not correct email. I'll put it in the chat. It's supposed to be sroser86@gmail.com. We're putting on this webinar with funding from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Some of their goals are to strengthen local food aggregation, to reduce food waste through food recovery initiatives, and also to put on the Sustainable Ag series. This series helps meet the goals. All these help meet the goals of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, as sustainable agriculture is almost always good for the environment, and it's just climate smart farming is local sustainable farming. Right, with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Jason Bergstrand is with Lake Region Takes Root. Philip Stowe is with Walking Plants Orchard. Trent Wise is with the City of Moorhead. And Carol Krabenhoft is with Growing Together Community Garden. So we'll take time for each speaker to share a brief presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A time at the end. Please put your questions in the Q&A part, not in the chat. If you have any other general comments or questions about the presentation, you can put those in the chat. But questions for the growers, feel free to put those in the Q&A, and put the name of the farm or farmer that you're asking the question to, unless the question is for all of the growers. With that, I invite Jason to get us started. At the end, we'll have a small evaluation sent to your email, as well as just a small poll at the end to make sure that we get your zip code where you are from.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. My name is Jason Bergstrand, and I'm the coordinator of Lake Region Takes Root Community Garden. We are not a traditional community garden in the sense of what is typically known as a community garden with plots that maybe families pay a little bit of rent for, and then only the family itself benefits from. Rather, we're a food security initiative, and we garden together as a community, and then all the food goes to area food shelves. So we are definitely primarily a food security program. Our motto is gardening, growing, and giving. And we like to say that in the simplest form, we're about sharing goodness and joy. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So where did we get our inspiration? Lake Region Takes Root Community Garden received its inspiration from three different gentlemen that I had the privilege of meeting. And the first one is Bill Meeker. He's from Boise, Idaho, and he goes to the church that my parents went to. And so when I was visiting them one time, I got to meet Bill, and he coordinates a garden on the church property, a 3-acre garden, and they produce a whole bunch of food for the church food shelf. And so I got inspired by the work that Bill was doing. Later on, I met Will Allen, who is well known in the local foods, industry. And his kind of story is that he's from Milwaukee, and he asked the city of Milwaukee councilman if he could take some rundown um, high tunnels and fix them up, and if they would allow him to do that and deed them over to him, he promised that he would make those facilities available to students all throughout Milwaukee to learn about the importance of growing their own food with a specialty towards aquaponics. And then lastly, I came across a gentleman, his name is Gordy Zybart, and he's a principal in Rochester, Minnesota. And what I learned from Gordy is that during his first principal job, he was assigned to an alternative learning school, and he was trying to help the students better connect at school and also improve their academics. And the kids were having lots of difficulty, but he began to think about how might he be able to make a difference. And he drew upon some of the experiences he had as a child, and wouldn't you know it, he was one of those kids who went through Will Allen's program as a child to learn about the importance. And he drew upon that, and he began to make some really profound differences in the lives of the students that he served. And so for me, those stories just kind of came full circle. And I started to ask myself, why in the world couldn't we do something similar in our community? And so Lake Region Takes Root Community Garden is located in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. So I was sitting one day with by myself at the cafeteria in the um, Lake Region Healthcare's cafeteria, and the CEO of the hospital, Larry Schultz, came down and sat with me, and he asked what was on my mind. And I started to share with him the stories that I came across and how they were impressionable on me, and how I wanted to create a community garden that could give back to our community in a special way, in a meaningful way. And he quickly became inspired and asked, "What is it that we need to do?" And I said, "Well, we just need some land. If you can give me some land, Larry, um, I promise you I will work hard to make sure that we create a sustainable initiative that will be here for decades to come." And he had someone who wanted to give him land. And so go ahead and hit the next slide. And so this was the property that someone wanted to deed him. And at the time, he didn't have an idea what to do with it until I came along. So one of the lessons that I really want to share with you is just be bold. Tell people about your dreams. Sometimes you can't do them yourself, but if you let people know about it, they can help you achieve them. And I couldn't do it by myself without the help of others. And so this is what our property looked like when we first started. Go ahead and advance. And just after a couple short years, we began to build a lot of infrastructure. We have two uh, traditional fields, one to the right, one to the left. We have a high tunnel. We have an orchard. We have over 60 raised beds. And we also have a small greenhouse. Go ahead and advance. So one of the things that we've done in recent times is that we always try to get better at what we do. And so we're growing about 12,000 pounds of produce every year for three area food shelves in Otter Tail County. And we've now begun to um, incorporate hydroponics. And so we have lettuce in a high tunnel, and we're able to harvest 60 heads of lettuce every week. So we have this on a rotation basis. So you plant 60 heads one week, 60 heads the next, and after you've planted them for 5 weeks, the first grouping is ready to be harvested. And so you have a continuous harvest every single week, and then you just replant thereafter. And so all throughout the spring, summer, and fall, the lettuce is available, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And we just really believe that folks that are experiencing food security should have access to quality foods, and this is a great example of that. Go ahead and advance. And so again, our impact is that we grow over 12,000 pounds of produce on average. We're up to 15,000 pounds now. And then we serve Battle Lake, Fergus Falls Food Shelf, and the Salvation Army. And we hope to bring on another food shelf very soon in the next year or two. Our impact is that we serve over 600 households every year that receive access to our produce. And this is a quick quote from one of the board members at Battle Lake that says, "The families who receive our fresh fruits and vegetables absolutely love it and appreciate it. We always get great feedback from those that receive the produce." Go ahead and advance. And so, with every good project, there's definitely challenges, and we have our own, right? Gardening is no different, and especially on a large scale, sometimes there's some unique challenges that are presented to us. And obviously, weather is a big thing. We were able to control some of what we do by the high tunnel, which is a great for controlling the environment, and we absolutely love that. And we get quality produce because we can control the environment by producing in a high tunnel. We have drip irrigation that helps us reduce the need for watering, and lots of other unique ways of producing food. Animals are a problem, though. You know, the deer, we've had problems with groundhogs, unfortunately, and they can just mow things down. And so we're located between two condominiums, and the residents there are pretty darn good about keeping an eye on things and letting me know when the animals are present. And so we've had to do some trapping in city limits and relocate animals. Um, and they've done some significant damage. So it's something that you have to, keep your eye on. The rabbits really do damage to our tender orchard trees. We have an orchard with about 30 trees, and when we plant those, they seem to really go after the young trees, and so we got to make sure we get them wrapped. And having enough volunteers is another big thing. The solution there is just to create a strong volunteer base by including all ages and all abilities. And every year, we reach out to other groups and we make sure that we have at least one volunteer group per week, and that helps us stay up on all of our maintenance that we need to do. Go ahead and advance. And the Rotary Club is a great example of some of the things that people help us with. This is a gentleman that comes and tills our garden up each spring, and then in the fall, he mows it down. Go ahead and advance. And then here's a great group of photos from the different, some of the different volunteers that we have. We partner with over 300 volunteers over the course of the year, everywhere from school groups to youth groups, to youth programs during the summer, nonprofits, businesses, etc. So here's a variety of groups that are helping us. Go ahead and advance. Recommendations, if you should, think about doing a project like this, I have a few recommendations for you. And that is really, you should think about having a partnering or an anchoring institution to partner with. Lake Region Healthcare is the owner of the land. They provide us an annual budget so that we have funds to use to purchase seeds and do the things that we need to. Start small and grow only as you have capacity. The one thing that oftentimes happens with people who garden is they take on a little bit too much right away because their eyes are big and their hearts are big. But just take it as you have the capacity to do it and grow your volunteer base each year. We find that people who come out and have a great experience, they come back next year. And so it's easy to start building a volunteer base and then share your story. Be cognizant about that. Take time to tell about the great things that are happening with your program to the community, and people will be inspired. Go ahead and advance the slide. And I have one last slide that I want to share with you, and that is a new vision that we have for Lake Region Takes Root. We're in a capital campaign right now to build a new greenhouse that's going to be 30 by 72, and it'll have enough space to grow all our seedlings. And right now we have to partner with another organization to make that happen. And then 2/3 of that space is going to be put into additional hydroponics, which will allow us to grow an additional 40% more food or 5,000 pounds of additional food so that we can grow more to serve more. And so with that, that's what I have for you today, and we'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Jason. Next up, we have Phil Stowe with walking roots, walking plants, sorry.
Ready? Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. My name is Philip Stowe. We grow hascaps, also known as honeyberries, in eastern Douglas County. We're located about 2.5 miles north and west of the town of Osakis. We sell honeyberry topping, jam, and frozen berries. First, I'm going to provide some information about the berries, how we grow them, how we harvest, share a few highlights. There's more information on the Walking Plants Orchard website. In the summer, when I'm at the farmer's market and people walk by the booth, I see them looking at the banner, often looking a little bit puzzled, like, what is this bluish purple berry and why don't I know about it? I know that look. I ask them, have you ever heard of honeyberries or hascaps? Most people haven't heard of either, and if they have heard of it, they haven't really tasted it. So at that point, I offer them a sample of honeyberry topping on vanilla ice cream. As soon as they taste it, they want to know more. So, so what's it taste like? I say it has its own flavor. It's sort of like a cross between a blueberry and a raspberry. Some varieties have a little, I call it a little zing. The fruit can be eaten fresh or frozen. It can be processed into a whole wide variety of products like pastries, jam, juice, wine, ice cream, yogurt, sauces, syrup, candies. Cheesecake is excellent. Anyway, it's a real versatile fruit. The skin is thin. It dissolves quickly in your mouth. There are seeds, but they're tiny and soft. Um, if you make it smoothly, they likely won't get stuck in your teeth and you won't see them in the bottom of the container. The nutritional profile is outstanding. The berries are higher in antioxidants and vitamin C than blueberries. Blueberries are blue on the outside and whitish on the inside. Honeyberries are purple all the way through. The picture on the screen shows honeyberries in bloom with a bumblebee. Bumblebees are a key pollinator because they can handle the cold weather that is that's available when the plants are blooming. Next slide. What to know? The plant species is native to the northern boreal forests of Asia, Europe, and this is you must have a really old slide because go to the slide that, keep going. This must be a really old slide. No, that slide, that back one, the back slide that you just had there. Yeah, that one. What to know, the species is it's native to the northern boreal forests of Asia, Europe, and North America. The plants we grow near Osakis are varieties that were released to the Canadian propagators. and the fruit was bred at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. The varieties we grow near Osakis are Russian, Kirill, and Japanese types. We currently grow 8 of those varieties. In recent years, nurseries have also been selling varieties that were bred in Oregon from Japanese stock, as well as varieties that were bred in Arkansas from Russian stock. The honeyberries are extremely cold hardy. Remember, northern boreal forests, the winters are not a problem, but birds and weeds are. So the top picture shows landscape fabric being installed. The plants have roots that are closer to the surface and they're wide, so weeds and grass can hinder the growth. The bottom picture shows over the row bird netting. Once birds find your berries, somehow they tell their friends, and then their friends tell their friends, and before you know it, the berries are gone. So nets are really important. I don't even think I saw a cedar waxwing until we had berries. So you'll want to have berry bird netting. For getting plants, get plants that are like pollen compatible and have overlapping blooms. How long does it take to get fruit? About 3 years. You'll get some early fruit, but don't expect too much. How do you know when the fruit's ripe? The birds will tell you. They turn blue, but they're not ripe. They ripen from the outside in, so be patient. Let the fruit ripen approximately 2 weeks after they turn blue. Then taste test. Some let some grow longer so that you'll know what your varieties taste like when they're ripe. Where to plant? Full sun. Um, they are tolerant to most soils and they do best in a well-drained loam or sandy soil. What about pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, irrigation? The only thing we do is we use bird netting and we use water. The soil was amended prior to the orchard being planted, and we don't currently see any need to add fertilizers. We do water the plants when they're young, and also if there's lack of rain in May. So go to the slide that has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This picture's yes. Okay, great. Thank you. The one with the pictures on it, please. That one. Thanks. What we do, we call our operation a we pick. The top left picture shows a small crew harvesting berries during the mornings in early June or late June and early July. You can see my dad and my daughter using air to blow the leaves and twigs out of the harvest totes. Behind them is a waxwing harvester. The harvester is a specially designed tool that goes over the row and is operated by 2 people, one on each side. To the right is that picture shows a custom configured shaker tool. Kind of works like a metal hand that goes in and shakes the berries off the bush. And this picture right underneath that shows the waxwing harvester's catch pans. And the bottom right picture shows berries on a cookie sheet. Clean berries are put on a cookie sheet frozen overnight. The frozen berries are then combined into larger containers so that they can be packaged differently in different sizes or buckets or measured out for some recipe. Now go to the backstory and journey slide. Thank you. I often get asked, how'd you end up growing haskap? Well, having grown up on a dairy farm and spending decades working indoors in an office, I always knew I wanted to get back to my farming roots, return to a rural setting, grow some specialty crop, and I was thinking blueberries. But the farm soil wasn't acidic enough for that. I had some June berries that I had planted years before, and they were growing well. So in December 2010, I called the Juneberry propagator in northern Michigan. Told him I was just starting out. He said to me, if I was starting out and I could choose any fruit crop to grow, I'd look into haskap. I said, well, what's a haskap? Anyway, it's funny how a little short conversation can change the direction of things. I, I don't even remember that guy's name. Anyway, in 2011, first plants went into the ground. I didn't know anything about them, and it turns out they didn't die, so that was encouraging, and there was a lot to learn. During the next few years, there was a number of trips to Saskatchewan. A lot of reading, a lot of Google searches. The University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon has this HASCAP Day, which is an educational day, about the berry, and it's made for growers and people that want to learn about it and grow it. That was really helpful and fun to attend. In later years, they included berry farm tours, and those were also very informative. Our target markets prior to last year, 2024, the primary market being addressed was small wineries. And then last year, we got a website that was built with the assistance of Barn to Door. They started, and then we started selling jam, topping, and berries at a farmer's market. The Barn to Door experience was a good one for us. I just recommend it. It required some deadlines, organization of pictures, and becoming more public with our story. It was kind of fun and actually enjoyable. What challenges did we face? Well, in 2011, this was not a crop, especially here in the U.S. And the route that we chose as a small scale wheat pick operation was also new. Many things were trial and error, lots of errors, but we learned a lot from that. And each year, I think we've gotten better. The other challenge is that this is not a commodity crop; it's a specialty crop. And the biggest difference between the two is that with a specialty crop, you have to have a market or you have to develop your own. And until it's a challenge until there's enough demand and supply and awareness. It's just a whole chicken and eggs scenario. What tips do you have for a new grower? Be patient. Um, Learn what you can. Don't expect a return on your investment for a good number of years. And go in person to the field day events that are listed on the next slide. Um, all right. Evidently, I don't know if you've got that slide. Okay, well, if you go to walkingplantsorchard.com and choose the events page, there are two events that are planned for this summer. One of them is for the last few years we've had a field day at the farm near Osakis. This year it'll be on Sunday afternoon, July 6th. You get to see the orchard, experience the berries, see what they taste like, what we do to work with them. There's another event that's being planned. It's for July 1st and July 2nd near Stillwater, Minnesota. This event will be similar. It will have a similar field day experience, but the farm has a different orchard layout and different netting and harvest setup. And the educational content will be provided by experienced honeyberry growers. There'll be extension agents from the University of Minnesota, University of Wisconsin, honeyberry researcher from the Montana State University, as well as the original HASCAP breeder from the University of Saskatchewan. The farm name is called HASCAP, Minnesota, and it's located south of Stillwater. So if you're interested in receiving an email with more details as they're defined, go to walkingplantsorchard.com, choose the events web page, and then you add your email to it. And that's pretty much what I've got.
Yeah, sorry about that. I put the wrong one in there. Okay, next up we have Trent. Just a 1 minute. I gotta pull up a different document here. I'll make sure I get in the chat that information that he shared at the end. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, my name is Trent. I'm the Morehead City Forester. I've been with the city for about 6 years now. And, a lot of what we do obviously isn't centered around food or fruit production. So this is kind of a passion project. And if you advance to the next slide, um, this opportunity came about when I initially started this position, excuse me. I was asked to be part of an ecosystems work group that was part of a Moorhead Community Resilience Task Force, which was made up of local groups. I believe Concordia College was kind of heading it, but all the groups on the slide, plus more organizations, were part of this. And I was just asked to be part of the ecosystems work group. And we were focused on benefits provided by healthy functioning of ecosystems. And our main focus was how do we enhance our ecosystem, create a more resilient Moorhead. We were fortunate enough to be given some funding from the task force. And if you could advance to the next slide, please. We were tasked with coming up with projects. I believe we had four different projects that were presented. I presented along with another person a food forest composed of trees and shrubs planted at a local park. I had worked for the Fargo Park District prior to employment with the city of Moorhead, so I had worked on Orchard Glen over in Fargo, and I thought it was a really a neat kind of space for the community. So I thought that moving something like that over to Moorhead would be a really exciting opportunity. The idea was that it would be open to the public for enjoyment year-round, including harvest. We would install plants as part of an Arbor Day project involving Moorhead students and community members, and that the orchard or food forest would be maintained by Moorhead Public Works, and then possibly some volunteers along the way. Could advance to the next slide, please. So just a quick what is a food forest? Just simply, it's a diverse mixture of edible plants that once established will produce food. It's also called a garden or an edible forest. And it differs from a community garden. My understanding of community garden is that typically you're kind of allotted space and you manage that space, and then you get to harvest all the produce in that space. This is more open to the public. Anybody's welcome to come any time of the year, and we hope that people are respectful of the plants and then harvest, at the appropriate time. Next slide, please. So why a food forest? Again, kind of going back to what I talked about with the Fargo Park District and Orchard Glen there. It's just like a nice space for the public to be able to go. Um, it's public food in a public space. It's a local food source, providing options for healthy lifestyles. And then, we wanted to plant a large variety of plants. So, we looked at apples, pears, plums, apricots, service berries, honeyberries, aronia berries. Um, I think we looked at currants, possibly a couple others. So we just wanted to have a large variety in there. And, the hope was also that if people were thinking about doing some of these things on their own property, in their gardens at home, or whatever that looked like, they could kind of, if they were unsure, they could come out and kind of see what each one was about a little bit before they had to make that decision for their personal space. Next slide, please. So our project was picked, which was very exciting. And then the next thing was where do we put this space? Um, a couple of the considerations were on Moorhead. I'm sure, as many of you know, we've had historically had frequent flooding. Um, so we wanted to try to have this somewhere that was going to be higher up elevation, so it wasn't going to have that, frequent flooding, whether that be 1 to 2 or 3 years. Something that wouldn't be touched by water very often. We also wanted to go pretty large. So we were looking at around 100 trees, maybe 30 to 50 shrubs. So we needed a pretty big space. We also wanted to enhance an area that had seen minimal use. So something that, it was being underutilized essentially, something that, was a large space, but people didn't really use it that much. And then we also wanted to make sure that there was easy access so that our intended audience of residents of Moorhead could get to this location and use this space. We did send out a survey. Um, I think we posted it on the website. I'm not sure if we sent any out or if we just posted it on Facebook and the website. And generally, um, we got really good reception. There were some people that had some concerns about animal damage and eventually the fruit um, being too in excess so that people couldn't want or couldn't harvest all of it, and that there would be wasps and things like that. But that's more of a long-term concern. Next slide, please. So we settled on MB Johnson Park, which is in North Moorhead. It's a 110-acre park. It has many amenities with hiking trails and biking trails. It's got facilities. It's got a couple shelters. It's got some bathrooms. It's got a boat launch. And then it's got some big open spaces, several big open spaces. And so it's kind of a destination park already, so we thought it would fit in really well with this park. It has, roads in and out of the park. It has multiple parking lots, and it's already a place that people enjoy going. Next slide, please. And so this was our general layout, and we wanted to design it so that maintenance would be as minimal as possible, essentially. So we put it in a grid style with 25-foot spacing between the trees. That way the mowers can just run up and down the rows and back and forth as well. Um, and our berry patches are kind of on the outsides. They're the smaller spacing between the dots. And then we also wanted to do clusters of like trees, um, so that we kind of spaced everything out a little bit. Um, and then there is potential for some trails to be put in there. That's something we haven't done yet, but there are trails all over the park. I mean, there's a bike path that wraps around the south side. But there are trails in the woods, and so we wanted to make sure we left some space to incorporate some of those trails so they could connect together. Next slide, please. And then we ended up settling on 10 different apple varieties, two pear varieties, three plum varieties, Juneberry, Aronia berry, and then two honeyberry varieties as well. The plants that we picked were picked for disease resistance, quality of fruit, hardiness. We used multiple types of root stock, specifically on the trees. So we have standard rootstock, we have semi-dwarf rootstock, and then dwarf rootstock as well. We wanted to use the three different types of rootstock so that we could get some apple trees that started producing fruit earlier. So those semi-dwarf trees they'll be smaller stature, but they'll produce fruit earlier. They won't live as long, but our standard rootstock then will be the last to produce fruit, but they will live longer. So we wanted to, we had sent out this survey and the public was pretty interested in this. So we wanted to try to keep that momentum going as quickly as possible by getting that fruit to the public sooner rather than later. Um, and then all the plants, almost all the plants were ordered from Gilby's Nursery in Aiken. And then I believe our honeyberries were purchased from Honeyberry USA, which is I can't remember exactly where it's at. Um, yeah, next slide, please. So, we once we had picked the site, we had ordered the plants. We worked with River Keepers, which was one of the organizations you saw on the previous slide, um, to host an Arbor Day event. So this was kind of the first big Arbor Day event that I had been part of in Moorhead. So it was a really exciting opportunity. Unfortunately, we were still kind of in COVID, so we were working our way out of it. But we weren't sure how the public was going to feel, even though it was outside, about having 75 volunteers there all at one time. So we split everything up so that we had three different shifts, with roughly 20 to 30 people per shift, and each one was about an hour and a half. And in that hour and a half, we planted the 100 trees and the 40 shrubs. Next slide, please. Here's just a bunch of pictures of everybody that helped out. Uh, you'll see in the top corner there, we put fencing around every tree. So we put 4 posts, we put hardwire cloth around the base of the tree, and we stapled that into the ground so that voles or other mice or rodents would get in there and girdle the tree. We put, like I mentioned, the posts around the trees, and then strap and wire to hold it. To hold it upright so that it won't tip over. We can get some pretty significant winds. And then we also put the fence around the tree so that deer couldn't get to the tree during the initial installation period. And then yeah, a lot of the other pictures are just people um, working at getting the trees planted and enjoying the time spent outdoors. Next slide, please. Some of the benefits that we're looking to get out of this, the utilization of this space for this project is just promoting the outdoors, getting people outside. The picture here is a picture of Orchard Glen in Fargo, and I know there's a lot of people that go there in the spring to do, class pictures or family pictures. So hopefully in the future it'll be ideal for people to get out and enjoy that space in the spring, not only in the fall when they're out there to work on picking some fruit. Also, it benefits pollinators. There's wildlife habitat. Um, and then, another thing is some community events. We were thinking that this would be a great opportunity with the parking, with the availability or the accessibility for people to come, and we can host some events, whether that's tree pruning, best management practices workshops, whether that is like a fall festival. We're still kind of figuring out what some of that is, but a good opportunity there. And then with the space, we're hoping that there's some potential for future benefits, or excuse me, future additions, expansion of the food forest. But we did find emerald ash borer in 2023, so that has really taken up a lot of our time, and we haven't been able to spend as much time working on the food forest as we would like. But that potential still exists for some space for future additions. And next slide, please. That is everything I have. I did want to mention that we are having a apple tree pruning workshop, actually this Friday from 1 to 3, that the University of Minnesota Extension is putting on. So if anybody is interested in that, I invite you to join. And then just a couple other quick things is we have started getting some fruit to grow on some of the trees. And then we are working to add some signage, and we don't currently have gates on those berry patches. They're fenced in and enclosed, so we're working to get some gates put on them as well. But I believe um, everything that we have planted, the apples, pears, plums, all the plants have produced except for the pears. They haven't all produced a lot, but they've all produced something, which is exciting. And that's what I have. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Our final presenter will be Carol. Just 1 minute. Let me pull up her presentation. All right, take it away, Carol.
There we go. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Scott and Jason and West Central Minnesota Food Council for this opportunity for us to share. My name is Carol Krabenoft, and I've been involved with Growing Together Community Gardens for 8 years and currently serve on the board of directors. Similar to Jason's concept of a community garden, people think of renting small plots, but we take the different approach. We have several large gardens where members pick one location, working together to share the harvest. It's amazing how much we can grow when we work together. Everyone is welcome and there's no cost to join, and all expenses are paid through our fundraising efforts. It's a great way to share knowledge and make new connections. Advance. In 2025, a conversation began between Olivet Lutheran Church and the Fargo Public Schools social worker and ELL coordinator. They asked, what can we do to help our growing population of refugees? Many had been farmers in their countries and now were living in apartments with nowhere to grow their food. They were dealing with isolation and depression in a location that was foreign to them. A need for fresh food and community involvement was our driving force. So the idea of our community gardens was born to help integrate them into our community and improve their lives. Next slide. Our mission statement shares our guiding principles, and we continue to hold our core values of connecting, volunteering, sharing, and outreach by creating sustainable gardens in our community. Next. Our program was created to provide this opportunity where anyone can join and are willing to work 2 hours a week, and they get fresh vegetables. We've grown since 2006 with 1 garden and 8 families to 9 gardens with over 300 members. The gardens vary in size from 100 feet by 100 feet, with the largest being 200 by 200, combining just under 4 acres. In 2023, we produced over 50,000 pounds of food and donated 5,000 to area pantries and food shelves. Next. Today, we have a healthy balance of new and not so new American members of all ages. When property is no longer available, churches, business, and organizations have opened up their space for us to use. 2 of our gardens are located in lower income neighborhoods, which gives them easier access. In 21, we lost access to one of our original large gardens, so we worked with Gethsemane Cathedral in South Fargo, which gave us the opportunity to utilize their large open property for 3 more garden spaces, the larger market garden and 2 smaller gardens. Next. Jack Wood has developed a leadership model from an exceptional group of volunteers over the years. His dedication, enthusiasm, and community connections have helped us add locations and people around the FM area. By becoming a formalized nonprofit led by 9 dedicated board members, it helps us to manage our growing organization as well as expanding our community impact. A couple of years ago, we received a grant that enabled us to hire part-time seasonal interns to learn about our nonprofit and help with our programs. It's the commitment of everyone involved that will help us to remain vibrant and successful. Next. Much planning and prep go into a successful operation like this. Volunteers prep and plow the gardens each year to prepare the soil. Maps are kept of the plantings to help each garden with proper planning and for crop rotation to improve soil health. To save on costs, we start tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and brassicas in members' basements. We use wood racks, lights, and heat mats, and we save money and have fun working together before the season begins. We then move the plants into 3 outdoor greenhouses in April and May. Our seeds are donated or ordered, and once everything's planted, it doesn't take long for all our gardens to produce. The city of Fargo also brings compost to each location, free of charge, which we use to help supplement the beds and feed the plants. The picture of our BCS walk-behind tractor we were able to purchase in 2019. It has a tiller with flailer and rotary plow attachments. We now have 2 of these machines that help shape our beds, till the weeds, and compost remaining plant material throughout the season, but especially in spring and fall, which save a huge amount of our manual labor. Next. There are many people who dedicate their time throughout the year to plan for our upcoming season. We have core leaders that gather during the winter months to plan. Once the season begins, they arrive early to their gardens to coordinate the tasks that need to be completed. Each garden has at least 20 to 30 members that are committed, but we make sure to take time for breaks and we do sharing circles to get to know each other outside of working. NDSU Extension created a children's curriculum where kids gather together with a leader to learn about gardening and the importance of eating healthy fresh vegetables. We are a well-oiled machine that gets the work done, but we have fun at the same time. And of course, food is the backbone of our community. Members bring treats made from produce, we share recipes, and we have awesome potlucks. Next. Plant spacing is very crucial in our gardens. Rows and plants too far apart do not utilize the space. Planting to form a canopy will decrease the weeds and evaporation. We practice wide row planting, which means we put more plants in wider rows. The beds are also raised several inches to improve drainage. This helps increase productivity over traditional narrow row gardening. Next. We do not use herbicides, but we use minimal pesticides when necessary. When pests like potato and bean beetles become excessive, we use limited amounts of spinosad, an organic product. But of course, we have a few kids and some adults that enjoy picking the pesky beetles off by hand, which we dispose of. Each session begins with everyone weeding 20 to 30 minutes to keep most of the weeds at bay. Then smaller groups led by leaders are formed to complete the weekly work assignments. Tomatoes are also staked and pruned for productivity. Our motto is, many hands make light work. Next. Here's some pictures of our production. Cool weather plants like spinach, greens, and peas are harvested by the end of June, and the main harvest begins later. We grow everything from beans, cabbage, cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, peppers, eggplants, potatoes, you name it, we grow it. We also utilize squash tunnel arches made out of cattle panels to provide more efficient use of space for climbing vegetables like squash, cucumbers, and beans. We've started adding more flowers and herbs, even for more variety, and to beautify the gardens and attract bees and pollinators. Next. Our gardens are unique because they consist of members all working together once a week for 2 hours to nurture the gardens. At harvest, the produce is weighed and recorded and then divided equally among the members who have worked their 20 hours at each location. Each garden also strives, and our whole organization does, to donate at least 10%. Next. A few years ago, we started a market to sell our excess. As we have grown, so has the market. We've added additional educational booths, small local businesses, and other local vendors to grow the traffic, helping us all. The leftover produce after the sale is then donated, and the market provides a good portion of our funding. Next. We have created a larger community through connections with other groups throughout the area. We involve youth groups, schools, universities, businesses, and each year we're approached by the groups looking for a meaningful volunteer project. Our member base has also become involved outside of gardening. We volunteer at shelters and we work outdoor pop-up pantries, which distribute food boxes to hundreds in our community through Great Plains Food. Volunteering is definitely contagious. Next. Are you interested in starting something like Growing Together? Each year, we're approached by local groups and churches looking to establish their own community gardens. Our online garden toolkit has been created as a lasting document of reference for those wishing to start their own community garden. The toolkit can be found under resources on our website, which details from planning to implementing. We have mentored over 12 community garden startups in the FM area and are always getting requests from outside the area. Next. With growth comes challenges. Growing from 1 to 9 gardens over 18 years created challenges for expansion of land, members, and resources. But we're lucky to have great community partners such as Fargo Parks, local churches, and businesses that have supported us. We also rely on networking and marketing as we strive to sustain. Funding challenges. With support from volunteers, doing outreach to businesses, we do a Christmas appeal campaign and grants help us to fund our organization. But as we grew, we had more access to share, so we started the weekly market that provides additional financial support. As we have grown in size, we've also been able to grow our member base. People are always looking to join, and we develop training and mentoring to encourage leaders and responsibilities. From the beginning, it's been our mission to share the excess, but the need is great, so we work hard to connect with all the area pantries, shelters, and other groups with food insecurity. But we know we can do more. We've even begun a program where gardeners can sign up to volunteer outside the garden to work at shelters and pantries. Of course, weather is a challenge in any outdoor operation, but flexibility and hard work by our dedicated members helps us overcome by draining muddy gardens by hand or working an extra shift to water when dry. Together, we overcome any challenges. Next. I look forward to any questions and encourage you to check out our comprehensive website for more information, growingtogetherfm.org, or reach out to Jack, the co-founder and our heirloom tomato expert. He'd love to hear from any of you and share his passion for anything gardening. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our presenters. Megan will now lead us in our Q&A time.
Yes, thank you. That was wonderful and really informative between all 4 presenters today. We do have some questions that I will go through right now. One person asked, will all of the webinars be available for watching? And yes, they will. Once I finish getting this recording done today, we have started a YouTube channel, and I put that in the, I'll go ahead and just put this in our chat so everyone has it. But if you go to YouTube, you can find us at WCMN Food. And we do have already our first 2 weeks of webinars up. And then I will later today or tomorrow be getting this one. And then next week we'll complete and make sure that all 4 are available to everyone. So then we had a question about, for Carol, maybe you mentioned pesticides. Are there chemicals that you use specifically to work with any of the pests or diseases to manage them, or was that just a point that you were bringing up?
can't call ourselves organic, obviously, but the potato beetles and the bean beetles get so bad, we have to do something. So we use spinosad in limited amounts just to control it.
Okay.
And a spray for certified organic operations, right?
As far as I know, it is.
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes. And
It's
Jason is
different than
also shaking his head yes.
different than a conventional insecticide.
Yep.
Great. And then there was also someone who gave a good tip for everyone, all participants, there is a great resource online. I also added this to the chat. It is known as No-Till, but no as in like I know you. So it is www.notillgrowers.com. And I'm all about the no-tilling as well. So I think that's a very valuable tip to add out there. There's a lot of things that you can do to get around with having to annually till your gardens, and still have them be very productive and soil remediated. So also, Carol, I had a question for you. Do you do any soil amending in the beginning of the year? Or do you do any fertilizing during the season?
No, we don't. We don't fertilize. By maintaining the same raised beds from year to year, we also, by flailing the plants in the fall, it puts residue back on the soil. And then the compost we get from the city Fargo is pretty clean. And it can have high nitrogen levels, but if it's sat for, over the winter, it gets lower. So we actually use that to amend and supplement our beds. And then we even use it for putting around the plants as long as you don't put it too close. But we don't use any fertilizer.
Okay, awesome. So you get the, like, say you get the compost the in during the growing season or in the fall, and then you just hold on to it during the winter and then you use it the
Mhm.
next year.
Right. Or we're careful. If we get it in the spring or during the summer, we probably don't put it on the beds till after we harvest it to actually help raise them. But that nice BCS tiller we have, we can pull the soil from the walkways and actually put it back onto the beds to help supplement.
Sure.
And we've
Okay.
started doing some soil testing through NDSU, but our soil looks pretty darn good. We're in the lake bed of the Red River Valley, so.
Right. Yeah. I guess everyone's situation is definitely going to be unique based on where they are located. So that's fortunate for you that where you're located, you've got some really nice fertile soil.
Mhm.
Let's see. So Jake just asked, have there been any community-based speakers working with their master gardeners? I'm not from their counties, but so not from the counties that we serve on the West Central Food Council, but wondering about partnering for a similar project here in your part of Minnesota.
I'll just say that we have several master gardeners involved in growing together, and people that are getting their certification for master gardening have reached out to us and they do some volunteer hours with us at our gardens. And then NDSU Extension, Julie Garden Robinson is part of our board and our organization. And so we're connected with her through her master gardening group. And same with Minnesota through Clay County. Anybody can reach out to us if they're looking to get hours.
And I'll just say that we've had a similar experience.
Oh, I can't really hear you, Jason.
Okay, sorry.
Oh.
We do have a similar experience. We have master gardeners who have helped us over the years. Some will volunteer with us for a short time just to get their certification, and we do have some that do volunteer with us long term. They have found an interest in the garden, and some have very specific interests, like working with flowers or tomatoes or that type of thing. And So they become experts and they like to obviously share what they know with the groups that come in and volunteer.
Yeah, I would just say we have a similar experience as well. We've been working with Minnesota Extension in Clay County to see if there is any opportunity for their members who are master gardeners to work with us. But the one area where we may differ is we have been working with the master naturalist to help us with some of our projects. Installing some of those some of the signage that I mentioned at the end of my presentation, and also building those gates for our berry patches and getting those installed.
Awesome. Great information all around. So I also had a question for you, Trent. Do you plan on, or do you currently do any companion planting with species around the bases of any of your trees? I just ask, coming from like a permaculture background, I've learned that there's like certain species, such as like comfrey, for example, that's good to put at the base of things. Is there anything that you do with that or that you're looking to get into doing?
We would like to do that. We haven't got into it yet. As I mentioned, we just with us finding emerald ash borer that has just consumed so much of what we do. And that might be a future project for us to work with some master gardeners on. But at this time, that's not something we've done. I'm definitely open to the idea of it, and I mean, I think it's definitely a possibility moving forward.
Awesome. Cool. I look forward to coming out and visiting it. Definitely anything food forest piques my interest. And Phil, I had a question about your honeyberries. I have some honeyberries in my backyard. And I'm curious, do you prune them? Do they need any pruning? What kind of spacing do you do for the honeyberries, or what's optimal?
Um, so these are some of the things that we've learned.
Sure.
Some of the older varieties, the growth rate is, as wide as they are tall, and those ones have to be pruned, you know, uh, when they just get too big to, we have a like the harvester that goes over them, and when they get too big to go through the harvester, and we prune them back. Actually, when I get next month and next couple of weeks, actually, I'm going to be pruning a bunch of the older Borealis ones that we've got, and the pruning on that is I'm going to prune them all the way down to like 7 inches, and all the way, and then I'm gonna do every other one so I don't completely ruin the pollination of it. And then next year I'll do the other ones, and then 2 years after that, hopefully I'll have nice growth again. And that's just the ones that grow wide and tall, like the Indigo Gem, the Borealis, or like that. Some of the newer varieties, like the Aurora or the Beauty or the Beast or Honeybee, those are more upright growers, and their pruning is not as important. And pruning really depends on how you're going to harvest it. If you're going to use a mechanical harvester, or if you're going to you do a U-pick. On a U-pick, you want to be able to have people go all the way around the bush. So the spacing on that is, quite a bit more than like a straight down the road harvesting.
Sure. When you're pruning, are you just going for like the height and the shape? You're not really caring about the intricate pruning of
Um,
specific
you have two,
branch.
we have too many to worry about the intricacies of what a fruit tree would be.
Sure.
But I will be pretty much the roots are in the ground, so it's going to grow back. So I'm just going to take enough off so that it's pruned back, and then the new stuff will grow back up. That's just for my operations.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're more well, educated than most people out here with the honeyberry, since it is still a pretty fringe, unknown crop in this region. So it's valuable. Thank you. Let's see, were there any other questions? It looks like there might be. And also, if anyone has any last questions, please feel free to add them to the question board for any of our speakers. We do have another minute or so. Making sure I didn't have any other questions to ask.
I'll go ahead and launch our poll so that everyone can take time to fill that out about where your zip code is.
Oh yeah, that would be great. If everyone could please help us with our funding for this webinar series. We just simply ask that you can answer where you live, so we know that how much carbon was saved by hosting this online today. Well, I don't think I had any other questions. Let's see, of the questions that we already answered. Someone did mention that, community gardens are sometimes open. They're not always membership based, and that's a huge, really great fact for anyone who's looking to get started on something really small scale in your community. Just being able to offer it and then putting the word out to even like your town's municipality or city council, letting people know there's often, like a newsletter that goes out in small communities and small towns, and they can just start the word by getting it out or mentioning it to a local school in your area that there's something available for parents to bring their kids to. You can really start very, very small. That's the beauty of community gardens. There's really no wrong or right way to do it. There's no one simple shape or model that you follow, and you can see just from today's couple of options between Carol and Jason how different and unique they can really develop over time based on your community's needs and your personal interests. All right, well, I think that's all the questions we had. So if you wanted to wrap it up, Scott, I think we are set.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to thank our presenters. Just some amazing projects that I had heard about in our area, but just incredible to find out what just how much all of you are producing and providing food for so many in our area. It's just incredible. Well, we will send out the recording as well as resources that were shared during the presentations today, and look for a feedback form, and please fill that out. It helps us get our grant funding so that we can continue to offer educational opportunities like this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to hit stop recording.